How many drivers do you know have switched to an EV car? And among them, how many tout the incentives and even the savings that they have made ever since they've made the switch? Hello, I'm Andrea Heng and welcome to CNA's Money Talks podcast. And I personally know a few friends who have trumpeted non-stop about the incentives and the cash savings that they have made ever since switching to an electric vehicle. First, there are the incentives, rebates and discounts, the EV early adoption incentive, and a lower additional registration fee, that's the ARF, which reduces your upfront costs. Then there's the cost of charging the battery versus petrol, refueling petrol. It's much lower, more convenient, and cleaner, of course, if there is a charger near you. But do we forget that there are higher road tax and costlier insurance premiums? But with Singapore moving towards the goal of being EV ready by 2030, it's time for us to calculate the costs against the long-term benefits. Julian Kho is here to help us with that. He's editor of Sgcarmart. Hello, Julian. Welcome back.
Hi, Andrea. Thank you.
I know from your social media, first of all, that you drive a lot of cars.
I've been lucky.
You have been very lucky indeed, but I've lost track of what you actually drive on a personal level. Is it an EV?
No, it's not an EV. I'm currently driving a Toyota Crown.
Wow, old school. Have you considered an EV?
I did. I've definitely considered an EV. I think the missus and I even had a chat about it.
Okay.
We are not against EV. As a matter of fact, we are for EVs. Okay. But have we made the switch? Not yet. I'm still waiting for my car to expire.
That's what's holding you back.
Yes,
When does that happen?
Next October.
Oh, okay. So I'll check in with you next October to see what happens. Looking at the incentives that the Singapore government has doled out, right, for the EV push, how generous do you think they are? Do you think they really go far in reducing the overall cost of owning one?
I think the government has put in some effort in incentivizing people, right, for buying electric vehicles. That's without a doubt. My opinion is that the government wants people to use the public transport, right? I don't think they want us buying more cars.
So car light, essentially.
Of course. Is it enough? It's never enough. Of course it's never enough. Right?
We're Singaporean. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I do hope for more. But I think at this point in time, it's a cap at, 15,000? You have your ARF rebates, you have your VES or early adoption, right? Early adopters. Is it actually enough? Honestly, I don't think so. But again, I don't think these incentives are not in place for you to use your car for free.
Of course.
It's to just ease you, right?
So if we do an apple-to-apple comparison, right, say between a BMW iX3 and an X3, which is the ICE car.
Yes.
Because obviously these incentives are not going to be around forever.
Yes.
There will be a limit to it. We don't know when.
Yep.
In the long run, do the lower charging costs in place of refueling petrol really offset the higher road tax, higher insurance premiums for EVs?
Okay, so we did an article a couple of years back, iX3 versus X3. At the time when BMW launched the iX3, it was actually at the same price. Long story short, it's actually more expensive to own the iX3.
Okay.
And
when you say to own, it means to buy the car,
Yes.
to own it for 10 years,
that's
to
right.
register it, etc.
That's right, because at that point in time, we realized that people buy EVs not because they should, people buy EVs because they can. Yes.
It was a luxury item almost?
Yes, because the lithium-ion battery was actually still very expensive, was still very pricey. Of course, we have different kinds of batteries now, right?
Yes,
From different car
it's a
makers.
different picture
Yes,
now,
we have got a blade battery from BYD, so and so forth. So it's a completely different time now. So is it still the same? I think it's not that far off, to be honest. I think it is still more expensive to own an EV now.
I want to sidetrack here for a bit because you talked about batteries and how there are blade batteries in BYD cars now versus lithium batteries in other versions. My husband has this theory that the fires relating to EVs
Yes.
are what scares people more, and therefore
Yes.
that's why the insurance premiums are higher. Repairs also, because
Yes.
you need specialized repairmen and servicemen for EVs. Talk to us about the cost of that.
It's really interesting because I read that somewhere as well. I
Yeah.
read that BYD boasts that their blade batteries are fire resistant, it doesn't explode, so and so
Okay.
forth. But is this one of the causes for insurance premiums to go up? Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Again, of course, it highly depends, right? How old the driver is, so and so forth. But I mean, all that aside, insurance premiums are typically higher when you decide to purchase, or if you decide to purchase an EV.
How much higher exactly compared to ICE vehicles is the EV insurance premium?
I think it's generally about 25% higher.
Wow.
It's about 25% higher.
Okay, that's a
Yes.
lot.
Again, depending on the model that you buy.
Of course, of course. Okay, so now let's tackle road tax. Eventually, EV road tax would just be normal road tax, since all cars will need to be electrified by 2040. This doesn't just include EVs. This is also your hybrids,
That's
your hydrogen fuel cell cars.
Plug-in hybrids as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
So talk to us about that in terms of, where EV road tax eventually will head towards.
As of now, EV road tax is ridiculous because it's now based on power output. And electric vehicles are powerful, especially the dual motors one, right? I mean,
Right.
if you have like 525 brake horsepower or something, your road tax go as high as like 6,000, 7,000 even a year. So I think that has to stop, because if you want to encourage your people to go green, sustainable, you want to buy EVs, road tax you have to go easy, because as for now, ICE vehicles, road tax is based on the displacement capacity.
Correct.
I pay 1,008 a year. Can you imagine if you pay 6,000 a year?
6,000 is a hefty sum. I'm
Yeah, it
thinking
is.
where I'm going to find $6,000 to pay just for the road tax.
Yes.
Just for the tax to use the road.
There are cars out there in the market that are actually about 1,000-ish, 1,500, 2,000.
Okay.
So the mass market cars. Government actually made some changes to that. Was it last year or 2 years ago, if I remember correctly? So no, not all cars will set you back 6,000 for road tax. There are some like from MG. There are some from even from BYD. There are some from BYD that's actually about 1,500 to 2,000 a year.
Let's bring in those incentives back into the picture.
Okay.
The rebates, the incentives. Are they enough to offset these higher fees, the higher road tax, higher insurance premiums? So say if I buy a Tesla 3, how much would I end up having to pay in road tax and insurance?
Oh, it depends again. If a single motor will be cheaper, dual motor for those who are really into speed and power, well, you got to pay
Which
for
you don't
that.
really need in Singapore,
yes,
can I just
exactly.
say?
Yeah, you still have to pay for that. Are the incentives enough? I don't think so, to be honest. If you do the calculation, if you really sit down and calculate, it's just not going to be enough.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, on the upside, I do see more HDB car parks being fitted with EV chargers, newer condos also being developed with charging stations. But just out of curiosity, for those living in landed property and they buy an EV, how much would it roughly cost to set up your own charger? Because I imagine it's just more convenient to have it right by your
most
house.
most definitely.
Yeah.
But I do understand from several manufacturers, several of them, that they actually install them for free. If you buy a new car from them, they'll actually hit to your place and install the
So
whole.
it's like a free gift tossed in.
Yeah. For now, at least for now.
Okay. And how different are those chargers compared to what we see in public car parks or anywhere else that we see a charger?
So typically, public car parks, you'll have two different kinds, AC and DC.
Okay.
DC is the faster one. The ones that you install in landed properties will most
Right.
probably be AC.
All right. And DC, obviously, because it's faster, it'll cost more when we're paying outside, of course.
I believe it's slightly more, but it's much faster. I mean, you get from 0 to 80 or 10% to 80% in just like 30 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, so the direct
Okay, that's a
charging is
grocery
lot faster.
run.
Yeah, it's really quick. So,
Okay.
But I think I did try once actually. I took out a test car.
Right.
Plug it into a DC charger,
Uh-huh.
went to the mall. So I tap out some food and then
Right.
I went back and I was good, I think 15, 20 minutes and I
Right.
was already hitting 60% or something.
That's
60,
decent.
70%. Yeah, so
And
it was
how much
very
did you
decent.
pay?
I can't recall. I think it was 20 over bucks probably that I paid.
Right. And if you were to charge 15, 20 minutes at an AC charger or slower charger, how much would that have set you back?
I think much lesser because it's like 60 cents per minute or something
Right.
depending on the charges.
Okay.
So I don't think it'll be much. But that said, I think I think it would only get me like an additional 5-7% more.
Okay,
For 15 minutes,
that's
yeah,
not
it's
a whole
probably that.
lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that puts things into perspective then. I want to talk about the charging time now, right? Because obviously, in my head, typically you would charge the car overnight at home or near your home.
Yes,
But the thing is, not everyone leaves for the office at the same time,
that's right.
So, what is a typical charging time?
I would say if I have a spot, I would probably leave it there for about 6 to 8 hours.
Okay, and that would be at an AC charger
AC
at
charger.
about 60.
About 60 cents. Yeah, thereabouts.
Okay.
Thereabouts.
What happens if I go past that?
Idle charging means you still get charged after you're done charging and you do not unplug.
Right.
You'll still get charged for that.
So you better go down, even though you're not leaving. You're not ready to leave. You better go downstairs and unplug that car.
Exactly. But I think it's good to have that in place so that I think it's just to make people more responsible. I guess.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. We need that. All right. So here's a scenario for you, Julian. My ICE car is expiring in 2 years.
Okay.
Should I just get an EV or, what do I do here?
Take the bus, take the train, exercise, walk. That's my. I have to be really, really honest, Andrea. Best not to drive a car.
Well, there are people who need it though, ferrying.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have 3 kids. I have 3 kids who are shortening my life every day. But and I need the car. I need the car to drive them, ferry them from school, pick them up. I tried once. I tried it for a month.
I remember this. You experimented taking the MRT
Yes.
with your kids.
I had a lot of fun, but it's 1 month. I can do it for a month. Andrea, I don't think I can do it for 2-3 months, let alone years.
Yeah.
They're still young, so I
Okay.
need a car. There are people who are like me. There are also another group of people, right, who have to take care of elderly folks, and that I completely understand for sure. But for those who are, I would say, single or married with no kids yet,
Yeah.
I think it's good to not have that habit of owning a car, especially it's going to incur so much more cost.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, you're going to spend like 1,500 to 2,000 a month if you include your road tax, your insurance, your cash card, your petrol, parking,
parking.
your servicing, your occasional fines. You round up, it's about 2,000. That's about what, $24,000 a year. It's a lot of money. 24,000 you can grab like a king. But of course, if you need a car, I would say get an EV. As of today, I think BYD is one of the most affordable yet one of the most premium and luxurious EV
I mean,
in the
it's
market.
the top EV seller in Singapore as we
Yes,
speak. Yeah.
yes. Of course, there are other options. I mean, we have Zeekr, we have Deepal. Again, what's your budget and, how do you want to work it out, right?
What do you need it for?
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so from the 1st of January this year, no more diesel car and taxi registrations.
Yep.
Good for us, cleaner air for all of us. All new car registrations will have to be of cleaner energy models from 2030. So back to
Yes.
our 2030 goal here. Cleaner energy models will include, as we said, electric, hybrid, hydrogen fuel cell cars. So your last chance to buy a new combustion engine car is 31st December 2029. Can we still resell ICE cars? Or should we just get a better, cleaner engine, which will include hybrids and the like?
I wouldn't actually mind a hybrid.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind a hybrid at all. I mean, my whole life is just, I'm always going to Shell station or petrol station for that matter,
Yeah.
refuel. I get it done in 10 minutes.
I mean,
Somebody
essentially,
pumps it to me.
petrol stations are the 7-Elevens for drivers.
Yes.
Essentially, that's what
yes.
it
It's it's like my 5 minutes of me time.
Yeah.
I go there, I do
and
my
hey,
own
the
thing.
toilets there are not half bad.
Yes, exactly
gas
that.
stations, yeah.
Exactly that. So I don't know if I can ever get used to charging. I know it's a matter of time before I adapt. As with
And
everyone.
as we said at the start of the conversation, it's a
Yes.
matter of changing habits.
Yes, exactly that. But as of now, I wouldn't mind a hybrid at all.
Okay.
In the past, I actually told myself, you know what, no hybrids. It
Yeah.
has to be pure combustion.
or go home.
Yeah, you
Okay.
know. And then EVs started coming up, and then my wife and I started talking. We were saying, you know what, we should think about our children and our children's children. We should be responsible. If you want to drive, be a responsible driver. I said, yes, good point. Maybe we can go EV.
Okay.
But my take was, I will not change to an EV until there are electric charging infrastructure where I stay.
Okay, so final question here. Final scenario.
Okay.
Hybrid versus EV, what's going to save me more money in the long run?
Good question. Okay, let's just use an apple to apple again. If I use, say, maybe a Lexus RX versus a Lexus RZ, RZ will be the full electric version of the RX.
Okay.
The RZ, when it was first launched, it was about $400,000.
Oh.
The RX was about 350, or was it 3 something? But definitely less than 400.
Right.
So as it is, it already costs more.
Yep.
Plus your rebates. It's probably good for you to have some rebates, but in the long run, my option would be the hybrid actually. It'll still be the hybrid.
Okay.
Here's the thing that I'm worried about. Even if I'm wrong, and even if EV, and there's always a possibility that I'm wrong, of course, that EV is actually the cheaper option in the long run. But here's a fun fact, right? If we actually sit down and think about it, none of the new car or none of the EVs that we have on the road are more than 10 years old. There's always a possibility that I can renew the COE for my RX, but I don't know if I want to renew my COE on the RZ because of battery degradation, because of,
But I mean, a hybrid car would depreciate or degrade at some level also, right?
I'm sure it will, but at least there are multiple thousands of hybrids out there that have been renewed before, and I know,
That's true.
people have done it before. I'm sure I can do it too.
Okay.
Am I going to renew my electric vehicle? I really don't know.
Okay, I'll check in with you next October. Julian, lots of math for us to brain, obviously. But
Yes.
thanks very much for laying all the numbers down for us.
Thank you for having me, Andrea.
As always, our pleasure. If you've been eyeing an electric car, I hope this episode brings you a little more clarity. Bookmark this episode for future reference and share it when that time comes. Comments or questions are more than welcome. We will be on the lookout here on the Money Talks podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Me Listen. Give us that 5-star rating, just like you would on a car that you just bought. Credit to the team: Tiffany Ang, Junaini Johari, Joanne Chan, Hanida Amin, Saya Wind, Shaza Dalila, Rahmat, Crispina Robert. I'm Andrea Heng, and that's it for the Money Talks podcast.